Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of PaxCast. This is PaxCast Season 1, Episode 9. We have some new information that's been brought to my attention. These articles are kind of on the older side. Some of this is information that we've already covered before, but we have some new little tidbits here and there on them. We're going to be going over quite a bit of information. I have the roadmap up for you guys to look at right now. I have some guests that are joining me. We have Graz and Maven Moon who will be joining me today. They are going to be guest starring, giving us a little bit of their input on some of these topics as well. You guys have only heard my opinions on these thus far, but going forward, I'm going to try and bring some different guests on to get some different contrary thoughts on some of the topics I'm going to be talking about. Ignore my bot who's saying go to Tangia. Tangia will be muted or paused for the duration of this PaxCast because this is more of a formal setting. So I have Tangia paused and it's going to remain paused. I'll unpause it at the very end for any that are queued up that people did put through. But just keep in mind if you're tipping over on Tangia to have something funny play during these, this is a much more formal setting than my normal streams. So I will let those play through at the end. So if you're trying to do something funny, it won't happen at the time when it would have been funny. But that being said, I am here to read all of your chats and make sure that everybody's questions are being answered on all of these topics that we're about to talk on. I don't have a visual from Mainframe to pull up on screen other than their roadmap. We're not going to be talking about everything on the roadmap in particular because we went over that in PaxCast episode 8. But I'm very excited to be able to have PaxCast come back. Hopefully, we can get them out a little more consistently. The only thing that really holds them up is the information flow. A lot of this information is from an older articles. So it's information that you may have been able to find yourself already. We don't have anything too groundbreaking here just yet, but as Mainframe releases more information about PAX Day, once we get those groundbreaking articles, I will definitely be bringing those to you ASAP. But there is still a lot of really interesting information in here that I did not know, which says a lot because I've done a lot of research on this game and I've been keeping up with it for quite some time. I played in the second alpha, the Wilderness Alpha. I had a blast on there. A lot of people followed my streams. I did 3 whole streams where I was just collecting flax, but we were talking all about the different systems that are coming to the game. We're going to hop right in with some of the information that we have directly from Mainframe, and that is that the first big, and I've said this before on the channel, but the first big post-launch update is going to be the market system and a gold economy. That's not to say that there won't be some other things in that as well, but those are going to be some of the biggest features that are coming in it. We know we're getting the sign system soon, which is going to help us with organizing our chests a little bit. But we are getting a economy system, which is much, much needed. As you can see on the roadmap as well, hopefully we get the improved permission system, which is under the homestead section. Hopefully we get that soon. We got a bunch of people over in chat. We got Taz, we got Graz in chat and on stream. We got Kai over there. We got new people filing in. So welcome everybody. If you guys have any questions about any of the topics that we're going to be talking about, please let them rip and I'll definitely get to your chat. As you can see in the top left corner, we have a sub goal going, as many of you know who have been tuning into the channel for some time now. We're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. Once we do, we'll be doing a subathon. And the subathon will consist of me putting several hours on the clock and just letting it roll. And you guys will be able to extend that clock up to 24 hours by interacting with Tangia and interacting with, by getting channel memberships to people. Speaking of channel members, thank you to everybody who has been a channel member. I'm pushing 120 channel members currently, which is so great. The turnout from the community around this game and around the Cheeky Buggers United community Discord has been just unbelievable. So thank you to everyone who has been supporting the channel. Cannot thank you guys enough. Also, huge thank you to all of my admins and moderators and officers in game. You guys are all invaluable. We've been having a ton of fun in game. So if you would like to join us in game in PAX Day, you can go over to our website, type !website in chat. It will pull up a link for you. You can do the same with Discord. It'll pull up a link to our Discord. You can go on our website and you can submit an application to join the Order of the Blood Brothers. That being said, we're going to get right into this content. There's some pretty cool stuff on there. So back to our first talking point. Markets and gold are coming hopefully very soon, which will allow us to flesh out the economy and actually have a reason not to drop all of our crap that we've been crafting into the river. I have tainted the water supply with so many potions that I just have them coming out my ears. And I know a lot of people have been dropping spears and making freaking palisades out of them on the bridges because we have so much crap that we don't know what to do with. Eventually, you'll be able to sell that. And the way I see it is the gold's going to come from PvE. We know that for sure. They've told us that gold will come from PvE. Go kill monsters, get gold bars, maybe mint your own coins. Maybe they drop coins in particular. I'm not sure if it's going to be gold bars that you can then mint or if it's going to be coins that just drop off of the Inquisitors. We don't know yet. But that being said, either way, it's going to be limited by PvE. So when you're out there killing mobs, you're going to be generating gold, much like in World of Warcraft. You go kill mobs, you get items and stuff that you can then sell or vendor. We're not going to have like vendor trash per se, but everything will have a value. So all of those excess potions I've been making, even the weaker ones, can be put out for sale at these stalls. We know that the stalls will have some asymmetry to them, asynchronous. You're going to come to the stall and to buy things, and I don't need to be there. I can put stuff up for sale without you being there. Essentially, how I see it working is you're gonna build a stall, you're gonna put it down, you're gonna put things up for sale and pick a price for them, and then you can walk away. Other players can then come see the things that are for sale, purchase them. The money will go into presumably the table in a holding account, and they will get their item. That's how I think it's gonna work. Whether they let us mint our own coin or not, I would like to see gold and silver and potentially a third currency come into play, because if it's all one, you're going to be dealing in very large quantities of that particular currency. And I don't want to have very, very large numbers when it comes to the economy. But that is stuff that we've talked about before on the channel. The really interesting stuff is going to come in this entire document that I have written up here of information that we've gotten from various sources. Now, this information, I cannot verify it personally because it's not coming directly from a mainframe website, so take it with a grain of salt. However, they are claiming that these are from dev interviews that look pretty substantial. They look to have come directly from different sources that are pretty reputable, such as like I don't know, it's not Game Informer. What was one of them? Was it Game Informer? Is that even a thing anymore? No, it's PC Gamer, WCCF Tech, and MMORPG.com. So I know two of those. I've never heard of WCCF Tech, but PC Gamer and MMORPG have put out some of these articles where I've gathered a lot of this information from. Uncreated Lemon, how's it going? He says gold ore. Item says you can mint coin from it. I know it says that, but there's a lot of things that I think may change about that. I'm hoping that they let us mint it eventually, but I think in the initial iteration, we may not be able to. I'm not too sure. Hopefully they allow us to mint it. And if they do let us mint coin, to what extent will we be able to mint it? Will we be able to mark it with our own clan symbol, and that's our own minted coin? A gold coin's a gold coin, right? Uncreated Lemon also says, I'm sure it's not in game yet, but hopefully soon. Yeah, that'd be really, really cool to be able to mint our own coins. So you can have a whole treasury department. The game looks like it's going to have a lot of systems in place to allow us to do things like that with the whole religion system, which we have a lot of information on at the end of this episode. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. But I would really like to see being able to mint coins with our own emblem on them, because then you can have, especially for an RP server, then you can have things such as, well, I'm not taking the coin from Blood Brothers because they wronged me, or I'm not taking the coin from them. So then you're going to have to trade those with your allies, and your allies will give you their coin, and then you can trade to them with their coin. It might make a pretty interesting dynamic there. Graz, do you have any opinions on how they could implement an economy system that would have some conflict back and forth? How do you feel about that?
I like the idea of having your each kingdom having their own coin,
Yeah,
same
I
as
feel like
our tabard.
yeah, I feel like that could add some pretty good dynamic, huh?
Yeah, that would work good. Also,
Speak
money lenders would come in to play.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's true. You could have completely neutral factions who are dealing in coin from all of these other clans. It could be very, very interesting dynamic there. Maven, do you have any thoughts on the economy system that we haven't touched on yet? Any other perspectives?
Yes, it would be most cool if we have bandits that are taking coins from different people that are unfortunate enough to come across them and fall to them. And then also, I would wonder too, could one minted coin be coveted among others and possibly be worth more, even though they're both gold coins, just because of the way they're minted, perhaps?
Oh, I see what you're saying. So that's an interesting concept. Having maybe, if the Blood Brothers is the largest, we're the largest clan in Tremin, is our
Hmm.
coin worth more than a smaller clan in there simply because it's ours? That'd be really interesting. I don't know how they would balance it at the different tables, being able to actually make those asymmetry exchanges. Because if you bring a gold coin, how are they going to determine? Maybe the table can only accept. Maybe they can have a whitelist or a blacklist where they accept or don't accept certain coins mintage. If anything like this does come again, PaxCast is all about theory craft. So don't take anything we're saying about at like this is set in stone. These are just our thoughts on these topics. But that would be pretty cool. There'd be a lot of balancing though. They have to figure out a way to make the tables function with all of these different minted coins. They could probably achieve it with metadata like they do in Minecraft where they have items that can just attach metadata to them. But that's a very interesting concept there as well. That's the least interesting thing that we have to talk about today. I know it's the most prevalent because it's going to be the next update that we get, the next big update. That's not to say that it is the next update, because the next update we know is coming sometime during this next week, and it's going to include those signs, among other things. I've talked about them at the beginning of all the little hot fixes and stuff like that did not warrant a whole episode of PaxCast. I talk about at the beginning of my live game streams. So if you guys want to catch up on any of those, you can go watch the beginning portions of. I try to do it at the beginning so that way it doesn't get lost in the middle of all of the other content that we're playing, because those streams are like 10 hours long normally. So that being said, the economy system is coming soon. Hashtag coming soon. TM. We don't know exactly when, but it is the least important thing on this list here, in my opinion, honestly. We're going to get right into the combat system. So we talked about the economy now, what we know is coming, and our thoughts on what could potentially be coming. The combat system, in their articles that we found, they talk about the combat's quite feels quite bare bones, especially due to the stiffness of animations. Are you looking on improving that? They were asked. And these are questions that were directed directly towards the developers. Now, I can say personally that from Alpha 2 to live, the animations smoothed up a ton. They got way smoother. The combat feels exponentially better, and they really didn't even change that much. These were just small changes. They did no groundbreaking changes took place to the combat from Alpha 2 to live, what we have now. That being said, it feels so much better because of the fluidness of the animations alone. And they've proven that they can change a lot with animations, because look at the tree chopping. They implemented a new tree chopping mechanic during this early access phase in these last 26 days that we've been in early access. And the new animation started off way too slow. I still thought it was pretty okay, but then they tweaked the speed of it. The rate in which you harvested material is the same. Nothing really changed on that end. But they changed the animation to make it a little bit faster now, and you harvest at the same speed, but it feels a lot better. So they can achieve a lot simply by tweaking small things like that. And you guys have to remember, during this early access phase, we are the testers. You must report everything. Use F8 to get every single thing that you know reported, because they can't fix it if they don't know about it, right? So we're going to I report everything that I find. I don't do most of it on stream unless it's super important. I save it for after, because it's not the most exciting thing to watch me pull up the F8 menu and report stuff. but I report everything that I find that I think needs to be tweaked and fixed. And the devs are extremely, extremely responsive to that. So they replied to that question. They said, absolutely, the combat system in early access has, in the early access build, has already been improved quite a bit in terms of responsiveness, which 100% I can agree on, because again, from the alpha 2, if you guys go watch my early alpha videos, you'll see what I'm talking about. The animations have been made so much better. I have a massive storm outside, so if you guys hear any of I have noise cancellation. I have a pretty in-depth audio setup, but if you hear anything outside, I apologize. There's a massive storm, hail rolling in. If I lose power, hopefully I don't. I have a battery backup that will last for a little bit unless the main internet hub goes out in my area. We have an absolutely ginormous monsoon rolling in here. So they talk about the responsiveness being improved, but we can see how they've done a lot of work to the combat system already, they talk about, and they're planning for a whole slew of other additions and improvements coming to the combat system over the duration of the early access year. So combat is not going on the back burner. Combat is not going to get forgotten about. Some people, they don't really engage in that much combat. I know of some pacifists in game that they just want to focus on their craft and trade, and that's the beauty about this game, is it allows you to engage in all these different systems in the level that you choose to. But for all of us combat-oriented people out there, combat is going to be a focus area over the duration of the year. Were either of you in Alpha 2?
I
was
was.
not.
Did you say you were, Maven, or you weren't?
Correct, I was.
Oh, you were? Okay. So how do you feel about the combat? Because I have my opinions about how the combat feels exponentially smoother since then. Did you engage in a lot of combat in Alpha 2?
Yes, and even the nuances of fighting the boars are so much different now. Before it was click, you kind of see something happening, and then all of a sudden they fall or you're dying because they didn't have it balanced as well as they do now.
Right.
And it broke immersion pretty well, versus now it's a lot more fluid. I feel very connected with my character. Yeah, they've got a lot more work to do, but I feel that they're making strides and improvements.
Right. Yeah. The way I always put it is the combat system needs a lot of work, but it's not irredeemable. It's come a long way
Right.
already, and it's not irredeemable. And that's the main takeaway from this, is they're working on it. It's a main focal area of theirs. They've stated it as such. So they're going to be fleshing it out and refining it as time goes on. But again, with our feedback, that's the greatest thing. We got Templar in chat. Templar, how are you doing tonight? He says it feels better than Alpha 2. That's why I haven't really complained about it. Yeah, it has come leaps and bounds, and it's only going to get better from here, right? So the next question they got asked is there a set amount of active combat abilities that players will have at their disposal? A lot of this we already know currently. Each weapon and shields have a special ability associated with them, which we're improving all the time. So they're actively improving the unique abilities that each of these items have. This is excluding any magical items that have fire or poison associated with them. This is just, if you have an axe, it has that weird swipe slash thing. If you have a spear, it has its magic, not magic, but its standard special attack and its standard stab attack. We got Raz in chat saying he wants a damn roll, a dodge roll, and a jump attack. I think that would go over really, really well, honestly, to have a jump attack. Some type of, it'd have to use a lot of energy or something. They're gonna have to balance these, because you can't just, they can't just be cooldown timers, right? It has to be some cost to it, how they have the current ones. But a jump attack, I think, would be really cool to have, like maybe a guaranteed crit or something like that. If they can balance it somehow, I think that would be really good. And a dodging, I don't know how they would do that. Maybe if you double tap A or D, you could do like a sidestep, which could dodge something. But I like the idea of the combat being very physics based. Recently, I was playing a lot of a game called, let me look it up really quick. It was Dark and Darker. Now, some people hear Dark and Darker, they don't know what it is. Some people hear it and they say, oh, that game's trash. I actually really like that game's combat system. It's very physics based, where you swing, and even if you block with your shield, depending on the angle in which you block, the weapon can ricochet off and still hit you in the head, or, things like that. If you hold a shield up, someone shoots you in the knee, you can still take an arrow to the knee. It's very physics based. When you swing your weapon, if you swing wide, you'll hit the wall and it'll bounce off the wall and you won't actually hit your target. If you do an overhead swing, you need clearance. Things like that I think would be really cool. I don't know how they would yield themselves to this being more of an MMO setting, but I do think that those types of special attacks, Raz, would be really, really cool. Templar says getting sleepy. I'm in that. He says getting sleepy. I'm in that. Do I power through or go to sleep? Well, you definitely need to power through. We got a lot of really interesting stuff on here that we're going to try and get through all of it in a timely manner. We're already almost a half hour in. I try to keep these around a half hour, but this one's definitely going to go over. So they talk about how each of the weapons are going to have their own special abilities with them, and they're improving those special abilities all the time. Additionally, we're adding more spells to a larger section of gear. If you only play the game for a short period of time in alpha, you may never have gotten your hands on any spell gear. And as you play PvE, you find relics, you unlock the recipes for wearables and wieldables that will grant you spells, most of which are in form of active combat abilities. So anybody who's been watching my streams, you know this all too well. We have gotten a plethora of these magic items. I feel like they're almost too common, if I'm being honest, because, I know we have a large clan and we're able to farm these things out at a much higher level than smaller clans can. But that being said, I feel like a lot of these they don't feel as special anymore, because we just have so many of them. We have a chest filled with just hundreds of unique craftable items. And if they're really trying to make magic as rare as they are saying, they need to lower the drop rates. Maybe they have it high right now on purpose as 100% drop rate because they just want people to be able to get it in their hands and test them. But they're very, very common right now. That being said, on the roadmap, they have, under adventure, new spells, improved combat feel, new enemies, new gear. We know that new weapons, armor, and spells are going to be coming to the game. It's just a matter of when. We don't know when these updates are going to be coming out, because unfortunately they didn't give us any time frame with this roadmap. But we do know that we are going to be getting more of these relics and special abilities as well, that they've stated such time and time again. Raz says physical based to an extent, but let's be honest, devs took inspiration from Dark Souls. Action cost stamina, blocks cost stamina, and maybe some HP. That's Dark Souls all the way. Give me that dodge roll. Give me the Elden Ring, or give that Elden Ring makeover and add a jump attack. I agree. I think all those things would be great additions to the combat system. Balance is going to be key on these things. They need to balance it. You can add all the cool things in the world, but if they're not balanced, no one's going to be using anything else besides the meta. So you have to give people the option and the reason to use some of the other stuff. Like, for instance, one of my biggest gripes right now with the magic and armor system is that nobody wants to wear cloth, because there's no need to wear cloth. Why would you wear a cloth chest piece that has a heel on it when you could wear a chainmail chest piece that has a heel on it? Why would you wear a cloth helmet that has a heel on it when you can wear a plate mail helmet that has a heel on it? So it's kind of like they're just direct upgrades of the weaker stuff. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I would like to see a system where if you're wearing cloth, you have very strong high tier heels. And if you're wearing chainmail, maybe you have, a special ability to them. Leather, maybe you have more mobility for a rogue class, or maybe they add a stealth mechanic of some sort. Plate, you're frontline tanking, but you have more taunts, and maybe you have AoE heals that pull a lot of threat, a lot of things that generate threat. I'd like to see them lean into the traditional tank and spank roles, the Holy Trinity, a little more, because right now it's just kind of all over the place. They say other MMOs have class-specific resources such as rage, enemy, energy, mana, etc. Will you add something like that to Backstay? What about ultimate abilities? They say our game doesn't have classes. We use the gear you're using to effectively create the classes. This is what I'm talking about, where they need to lean more into those classes. They say, so when you go raiding, if you want to choose gear that matches, the role that you want to fill and play. The ones that grant you the spells once you've found some relics. And that's what I mean by it doesn't matter. We don't need healers to wear cloth because right now you can just wear plate and be a healer. Sure, that stuff's harder to make because it requires more resources, but it's literally just a direct upgrade. Do you guys agree with me on that? Groz, what are your thoughts on the way the armor is currently? It's pretty much just a direct upgrade, right? Like there's no need to use the lower tiers. What are your thoughts on that?
I'll agree. I think, to me, the spells, say if you're a cloth wearer, the spells would cost less of your stamina. You wear leather, it's going to
Right.
cost more stamina to cast that spell. If you wear plate, you might have a tough time casting that spell and defending yourself at the same time.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think that that's how it should be in order to balance out the way that they're talking about making your class what you're wearing, but if your class is what you're wearing and it's all just plate with the magic associated because it's better than the cloth stuff, it kind of take away from that a little bit. Maven, do you have any thoughts on that as well?
Yes, I can see like for solo players or people in smaller clans, they're going to be in cloth longer. So I feel that there is a place for it in the whole hierarchy while you're advancing your technology. But I would like to see a slightly different tier of the spell as you step up and say go from cloth to chain. Maybe the spell's inherently stronger, but yes, more demanding just due to the trade off of that.
Right. Yeah, I think that'd be a good way of going about it too. Again, I'm going to say this over and over again. Balance is key. They have to just balance it and dial it in. And I think that's what this year of early access is really going to be for as well. They're going to be implementing things that are completely unbalanced, and we're going to have to deal with it, like the leather drops right now. We know we're getting a fix in the next patch for the leather. But sometimes we're just going to have to deal with the bullshit that's going to make you like with Star Citizen. You're going to get the bullshit that makes you throw your hands in the air and say, what the hell, mainframe? While we're the testers, we have to make sure that we're getting everything dialed in and getting it all reported, so that way in the final product can be something that we're going to be proud of and something that we want to engage in. Lucky Baba says, I'm ready to watch your videos on the next game you move on to. Maybe it's time to put PAX Day on ice while they continue to work on it. I don't think it's time for that just yet, Lucky. I think there's still a lot of content in PAX Day. We're definitely going to be exploring a lot of other titles. I know there's some big Star Citizen patches coming out. We have a lot of people in our community who play Star Citizen, but I think that there's a lot of content that's going to be added to PAX Day. I think these first couple months are going to be filled with a lot of fixes and back end stuff with very minimal in terms of content, like actual content patches. But we do know we're getting the economy hopefully relatively soon, and there's still some things to be worked through that we have not seen in game. I want to make sure we clear all the dungeons, collect all the gear, get it all crafted, make steel plate, engage in a broader sense with the community around us before putting it on ice. I don't think I'm ever really going to put it on ice. It's going to be, I know that it's just the way that the gaming industry goes. A game will release, it'll peak in popularity, and then it'll taper off a little bit until a content patch hits, like with World of Warcraft. Expansion comes out, peak, tapers off. Season 2 comes out, peak, tapers off. You have those peaks and valleys with games. And I know people are really wanting to see what's going to be coming next for PAX Day. And I know the future is bright for PAX Day. So we're going to be continuing and keeping up with PAX Day into the foreseeable future. But I definitely know what you mean about wanting to see some other games and stuff like that. We have a lot of stuff that we're looking into. But that being said, there's still a lot coming down the road for PAX Day. Once we start getting actual content patches, it'll make doing these PAX casts a little more consistently a lot easier as well. We've put PaxCast on ice until now because we haven't had any information to talk about. Raz says chain pants give a higher physical defense, sure, but the cloth sets have consecrated ground. Depending on the level, you can get boosts to the ailment defense. I think that's pretty balanced. Oh, is that currently how it is? So the cloth stuff does have higher heals? Because it was my impression, my understanding. I haven't messed with all the magic stuff. It was my understanding that the heals on the cloth could be directly just transferred over to the chainmail counterpart. So you're saying that the cloth does have stronger heals? They would have to be pretty strong to justify going down, because cloth to chainmail is a significant physical reduction. Like there's a significant physical disparity between them. Groz is moving very close to a weight system. Groz is moving very close to a weight system, and if that's the case, I'm about it again. DS mechanics, Chunky Boys had a slow roll. Yeah, I definitely would like to see stuff like that where you're moving slower. If you're wearing heavy armor, you use more stamina to move around and things like that. That would bring a lot of variety over to the combat system. So let's see what else they say here about this. So we use stamina to gate the spells and abilities you get from the gear. Not related. We are planning to introduce a secondary resource by the end of the year that will, to some degree, have a similar role in the game. I think there's something down below about that secondary resource system. So keep that in the back of your mind. They've said in this article here that they're planning on introducing a second resource by the end of the year. And I think we have some notes on that we're going to be talking about. They go on to say, previously you said that magic would be rare in the game. Is that still the case? We've talked on this a little bit. I think it's way too common in my opinion. I mean, if I can give everyone a piece of magic gear in every single slot within a month, I get it. We're a larger clan. Not the smaller clans are going to have a much harder time doing this, but the economy system is going to come online and we're going to be selling these things and exporting these things. Now, we're not going to export our best stuff until all of our clan members have them. But all of this cloth magic gear that people can't obtain on their own because they're a solo or a small clan, it's going to be sold to them. So it's going to be fueling the economy. So these things are going to be obtainable by people who normally would not be able to obtain them. They say, do you have to work hard to find magic spells? And they said when you start the game, you'll have no access to magic whatsoever. And that's the case. Yeah, you start off, you don't have access to magic. You can't just go and get these things right away. You do have to climb the ladder. But I think having a large clan like we do, it's made it a lot more obtainable. We've been able to go in places that no one else has really been able to, or very few people have been able to, and clear them efficiently. And I'm talking about dungeons and caves, killing the Luna Wolf and getting the twinkling and the sparkling stones or whatever they are, the collar stones. Raz says Consecrated Ground 1 adds 5 to fire, poison, and mental, and cold defense. Consecrated Ground 2 adds 10 and 3, so it doubles the total of 30. Still curious what cold is. Yeah, I'm not too sure what the cold resistance is used for. So they say that the relics for more powerful spells are quite challenging to find, which I guess I'm biased to it again because we have a large clan. We're able to go into these dungeons and just steamroll them at this point, and we're not even a month in. So I think that there has to be I think they talk below about there being a cap on these dungeons, but the cap needs to be rethought because we're able to go in there with just a bunch of people. Before, we probably had the gear to go in there with smaller groups, but now we can go in with smaller groups and still steamroll a lot of these dungeons. But in my opinion, they need to make them more rare. I mean, Graz, how do you feel about the level of magic that we've acquired so far, given that we're like 26 days in? We're less than a month in. How do you feel about, I mean, you've seen the chests filled with magic stuff, right?
Oh yeah, we've got all the magic out there that we could collect. There's nothing that we haven't been able to get. Now, if they're talking about lack of variety, there you got it. To me, there's not enough variety.
Yeah, I definitely could see that. I mean, we have a couple different forms of heal. We have a directed single or two-person heal. We have an AoE Consecrated Ground, which mostly is for resistances, and we have the AoE heal, and we have the one that increases your health. So I mean, it's an okay spread, but I definitely think that, well, we know on the roadmap they're going to be introducing more magic. But Maven, how do you feel about the amount of magic items that we've procured so far? Knowing the size of our clan and how far in we are in the game, do you feel that the magic is too common, too rare? I mean, obviously, I don't think it's too rare. I don't know how you possibly could, but what are your thoughts on the level of magic that we've acquired so far?
I think it's pretty common, but I think being in alpha, early access, the devs are looking at that data that comes in. And I think we're going to see them start to balance it out a lot more with the number of people on the server, who's frequenting the caves or the areas of interest that we're visiting. So I think they will be working that out as we go forward.
Yeah, so they're most likely going to get nerfed is I think the consensus here. And I remember reading an article before about them saying that you may be the only person on your entire server in your entire region that has a specific type of magic because they're going to make them very rare. I love mystery in games. I love when things aren't necessarily told directly to us through patch notes. Finding things out in game is what excites me a lot. I don't like to just read articles on this is exactly how you do this. This is exactly how you do that. And some games hold your hand too much, like World of Warcraft holds your hand a lot. I mean, you don't even have to know what you're doing for the quests anymore. You just run to the zone and do the thing that has the number above it. I don't like that level of hand holding. I like when things are a little more rustic, a little more old school. You have to read this stuff, figure it out for yourself, hunt down the secrets. I think it was called Secret World. Does that ring a bell with you guys? Secret World
Yep.
MMO? Yeah, Secret World was a great game in my opinion. Didn't play very well. Like it wasn't the most intuitive thing to play. The mechanics and the engagement of the combat and stuff was kind of off-putting in my opinion. But where it really shined was in the level of depth that they went to have these mysteries in the world. I love stuff like that. The immersion you get from that, having to actually engage with the game and not just mindlessly roll through its motions means a lot to me. So hopefully the devs have said that don't be surprised if random monsters, mystical stuff starts popping up all over the world without being in patch notes. I'm hoping that they don't just give everything away in patch notes. We know that the Griffin and the Wyvern are coming relatively soon. Those are going to be like world boss-ish type monsters. At first, their stats were very underwhelming, and then they got buffed on the data mined information that we have, so they're going to be quite formidable. I still think we'll be able to take them down fairly easily. We'll have to see what they drop and things like that. But their loot tables in this game are not fully fleshed out. So it's some things you just don't even know where they come from. It's things like that that I love. They go on to talk about, is all the gear going to be tradable? Can you conceivably lend high-end gear to a newbie to make them competitive right away? And they say yes. We don't gate trading and or the use of items with character progression. Having said that, new characters will not have progressed in the skills to be able to be proficient with or efficient with those pieces of equipment. And that is 100% true. Somebody can join, you can give them all this magic item, all these weapons and things like that, but they're not going to be swinging a mace like someone who has their weapon skills maxed out. They can go and start to get it maxed out and start leveling it up to be able to do more and more damage with it. I would like to see specials and other levels of proficiency locked behind your skill progression. I feel like that will add more of an impact. Imagine if I give someone a really good mace, but they can't unlock the stun of the mace until they reach a proficiency with it. I think that would be kind of an interesting way to not really gate them from using the gear, but your skills as an individual will progress and give you that satisfaction other than just having a damage number increase. Now, that may not be a popular opinion, but it is an opinion of mine nonetheless. I'll never bullshit you guys. I'll never lie to you or sugarcoat anything. I'll tell you good, bad, ugly, indifferent, my thoughts on these different topics. If they do something good, I'll praise it. If they do something bad, I'll shit talk it. That's just how I am. I'll give it to you straight. And that's just what I do with everything. So I think it'd be really good to have a system where you're unlocking more abilities with weapons. And maybe you can even choose to change that ability. That would add a lot of variety. If you have a mace, you can choose to have a mace that does a stun, or maybe you're proficient in dealing higher damage with a big overhead strike with a mace or something like that. Maybe with a two-handed sword, you're good with whirlwind. And that whirlwind, again, this is all theory craft. That whirlwind will hit all the enemies around you doing high damage, or maybe you could do a giant single target slash. Having the choice to do different things like that will inherently build a meta, yes, but it also gives variety. So they just talk about how giving new players gear does not necessarily mean it'll make them more powerful, sure, but it does not necessarily mean that they are as powerful as they could be with it. So they're going to have to increase their skills with those weapons. In terms of PvE, you've talked about the dungeons. Is there a limit to the number of players that can go into a dungeon? How does instancing work for dungeons? And can you find other groups in there? So this is something that I actually did not know about the game. There's actually a limit to the number of players that can go into these dungeon instances. The number is based on the dungeon size and the performance requirements to ensure the gameplay experience in the dungeon is pleasant. The instances are not made specifically for your party, so you can find other groups in the dungeons, which we have found out about. Something disturbing I read down below that I think they're going to have to look into more is Well, we'll get to it when I get to the next section because it talks about it. But right now, random people can be in the dungeon instance with you, and the dungeon instances do have a cap. So I'm not too sure how that works. If I go in there with 10 people and the dungeon cap is 15 and 2 people join and I have a group of 5 coming, do only 3 of my remaining members get in? Does it let the other 2 in? I don't know. We've never hit a dungeon cap currently, so I'm not too sure what the dungeon caps actually are. I didn't know they even existed. But we've had problems with people following us into them and ninja looting and leeching off of us and just all around harassing us in dungeons. So I would like it comes down to a PvP system, right? We need to have PvP come to the greater area of the game because then people won't be breaking, at least we play on an RP server. People won't be breaking RP as much when their loot and their gear is on the line or their life is on the line. I think that they're eventually going to have to make a system where you're losing more than just your loot when you die. Maybe you can have certain things where you can do a ritual that will make them soulbound or something like that. In V Rising, they have a system where they call bloodbound gear. Your gear is bound to you and your resources are not. So if they do something like that, but then balance it out where you lose skill levels or proficiency or maybe you lose influence or something for dying. Because I can see people just leaving all of their gear at home, coming to troll you naked, and sure, you kill them, but it has no repercussions. They need to somehow find a way to make it impactful on RP servers, because if they just neglect RP servers, we're not going to have a good time on there with people just trolling us and not actually RPing. I'd like to see eventually them having some level of admins on there, such as game masters like they have in World of Warcraft or something, to somewhat enforce these things in game. I feel like they're going to have some type of system like that in play, but we'll see what they come up with there. But yeah, in terms of dungeons, they do have a cap on them. I was not aware of that. What else do they say here? There's a system related to the instances in PAX Day that looks at which instance your party or clan members are in and automatically picks that instance with your friends if multiple instances are active. So there is a little bit of an intelligent aspect to which instance you're getting put in. It'll route you to the correct room based on where your friends or clan members are. But again, if it's capped out, can you still get in? I'm not too sure. These same systems, they say, also apply to the open world areas. Now, I'm not sure if this is implemented yet. They say the Heartland and the Wildlands have a soft cap, then they'll get instanced. Thank you for that subscription, Gangja Claus. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. I missed some chat here. Raz was saying, I'm assuming cold is directly going to affect the speed of movement and attack speed, which could be crippling. That's a good thought, Raz, on that. I know that was from a little bit ago. He also says level 30 greatsword user with a basic tier 1 weapon can smack around a level 5 with a tier 3 according to the damage and scaling parameters. Yeah, if they make it all scale good, I still think I'd like to see some abilities associated with your skill increase, though, or at least a choice of options associated with them. But back to these dungeons, they say that they are limited to the number of people that can get into them, and they say the wilderness is as well. I've not witnessed this. I've always seen everybody when I've phased in. So I'm not sure if they mean they're going to not have region-based systems and it's all going to be one big open MMO or something like that, where you'll be phasing in and out with people from other servers, maybe. I'm not sure. Maybe like a World of Warcraft style system where they're going to be meshing them together. My pleasure, they say. Been enjoying the streams. I'm glad that you're enjoying the streams. Yeah, we've brought back PaxCast now because we have a little bit of new information, which is a lot of the really good stuff is still at the latter end of the stream here. This one's going to run a little bit longer than an hour. I try to aim for these to be around an hour, but there's quite a lot of info here to go over. But I definitely appreciate that. Thank you so much. This is the part I wanted to talk on here, and this is where I'm going to bring Graz and Maven in. PvP in dungeons, allowing fights between different groups? Question mark. Currently, no. We don't want to create a significant PvE content, any specific significant PvE content in the game that be locked behind PvP flags. So players who don't want to participate in PvP don't feel like we're forcing them into PvP. Having said that, we're working on an expansion to the PvP system, which will allow players to flag themselves for PvP in a manner that will also work within dungeons. We'll tell more on this later. So the problem we've been having is, what stops anybody from just coming into the dungeon with you and ninja looting your boss drops? What stops them from coming into the dungeon behind you and getting the loot from the loot boxes? What stops them from just leeching off of you and furthering their progression against your will if they're a hostile clan? What if they're people who have been trolling you, or an RP server, you are at war with them? You just don't have a choice but to let them come in behind you and get a bunch of free loot and try to steal stuff from you. That's the problem I've been having. We need to have some form of system or level of enforcement with this. If the dungeons are specifically public for no reason other than just letting people be in them and having them be public, I think they should just make them private, in my opinion, or allow us to have PvP in them. Now, I understand that they don't want to just they want PvP to be opt-in. That's what they've been saying from the get-go. They want PvP to be opt-in, where you're not forced to engage in PvP. Graz, what are your thoughts on the level of, not really the level, but how the dungeons have worked so far for us, knowing that we cannot PvP in them and that we've had people follow us in there? How do you feel about these public dungeons?
I'm not a big fan if they don't allow us to take out the people that are bothering us.
Right.
In my opinion, they should have a flag that if a group like ours enters a dungeon and some oddball decides he's going to follow us in, it tells them straight out, you're entering in a dungeon with this particular group. If you enter, you will be flagged for PvP.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good idea. But I understand where they're coming from, where they don't want to force people or lock content behind a PvP wall. So it's a hard thing to balance, right? Because they're trying to make this open all the time, open to the world, open to the public instances and world. But then they're trying to not restrict people behind PvP. So if they enter the dungeons, what if we're always in the dungeons? They then will not be able to go into the dungeons because they don't want to PvP, but we are PvP. See what I'm saying? That's where that fine line comes into play. I'm not too sure how they're going to balance that. Templar says, I've never been a PvP guy, but this game, you kind of should just expect it. I'm okay with knowing that. What were you going to say, Gross?
I was going to say that's where their instancing come in. If they want it in the dungeon, come in with a big enough group to pop the second instance. Not just one or two people who can't do the dungeon to begin with.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that as well. I think if they're not going to let us PvP them, they should make the instances private. Maven, your thoughts on this topic?
I think maybe they could implement some sort of a tiered system where beginner dungeons, okay, PvP free zone, but give us some sort of option where if someone's grifting us or coming along and ninja looting, maybe if they have 5 people report that person, all of a sudden they get flagged for PvP temporarily for like the next minute and a half to 2 minutes. That way it allows some sort of social construct. So if they're behaving badly, the system can help deal with it.
I agree with all of that besides the whole right-click report feature. I've had such a bad experience with that in World of Warcraft, and Asmongold actually showcased it, how the automated systems in place when you can just right-click report someone. If, like, we have a lot of bodies, if we were to right-click report someone, things are going to happen because we have so many bodies.
Right.
So I'm not too sure how they balance that, but I definitely think that they need to consider PvE and PvP in these, because allowing people to just follow us in and ninja loot and stuff like that is not going to work going forward.
Right. Or just make it flat out, kind of like the Lioness area. If you're entering into a dungeon, just understand you're eligible for PvP.
Yeah, I definitely think that, but the problem is with Lioness, the resources that are in there can be harvested in other regions. They're just very, very scarce. I see what they're trying to do. They're trying to not gatekeep progression specifically behind, like, the higher end stuff, specifically behind PvP. So if you don't want to PvP at all, you can go and harvest steel, for instance, in certain regions in less quantities, less risk, less reward. If you want to have high risk, high reward, you can go into Lioness and get bucos of it and fill your inventory, but you have the risk of being killed. In dungeons, I feel like they would then have to have maybe bigger dungeons and smaller dungeons. The smaller ones maybe are more for PvE. and they can have similar items, but maybe they're less drop rates, or the bosses are rarer. And then if you go to the PvP ones, you have a higher chance to get these things. I don't know, something like that. They're going to have to come up with an interesting solution. That's one of the themes about this game, is they need an interesting solution to the interesting problems that they're having, because no game has really done these systems that they're doing exactly how they're doing before, which is going to be interesting to see how it all comes together. Raz says, we did save that 4-man group in the dungeon. The entire team dies in a dungeon. Your gear should be lost. If you're rescued, you shouldn't be able to PvP in response. This will be a hard balance. Yeah, it's going to definitely be a hard balance for sure. That is 100% the theme here. I have faith in them, though. I feel like with our feedback, if they really listen to the community if they keep listening to the community like they have been, I think they're going to dial it in correct, and it's going to be a good product on the other end. That's my hope, at least. They go on now to talk about, you spoke about the potential rewards for PvP. So what are people getting from PvP activities except from loot from defeating foes? So this is what we were just talking about. This kind of carries over into this. Currently, PvP is enabled in Lioness, a central area in the world accessible from the 4 different provinces that feature the buildable areas, which are the heartlands that we live in, such as Tremin. Entering this area flags you for PvP. The risk reward related to entering Lioness is about the resources you can find in the area. For example, pure iron, which is very good for advancing gear manufacturing. It's relatively common in Lioness and rare outside in the outside map. So you still can obtain it in the outside map. Again, it has that risk reward. So they're gonna have to carry that over somehow into the dungeons. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what they can do with that moving forward. But I like how Lioness is right now. I think the combat is very rudimentary still. So it's kind of just a who has more hot bodies, because nobody's really bringing good gear in there to just lose. And the whole combat logging issue is kind of it's a big issue. You could just basically log out and no risk of dying. So they need to have a combat logging system. I believe clan wars were also, this is where we start to get into a lot of the really interesting stuff. Now, this is some of the stuff that is news to me and news to probably all the viewers here, unless you guys have been digging around on the internet. I believe clan wars were also mentioned somewhere in the presentation slides. Is this feature coming during the early access phase? They say, we are indeed working on an expansion to the PvP system, and yes, this will launch during early access. So this is confirmed by a dev that the expansion of the PvP system is coming during early access. The system is not tied directly to clans, however. The PvP organizations are independent of the clan memberships of players. We're assuming some clans might choose to go all in on PvP and have the PvP organization and clan memberships match 1-to-1, meaning however, whatever system this is, if you're opting in for PvP, there's certain clans that will probably be like, yeah, we're all PvP all the time. Kind of like in World of Warcraft, they don't really have PvP servers anymore. They have war mode. So it'd be like having a war mode clan where everybody's war mode all the time. But this is up to the players, and we're sure that there'll be interesting mixes of clans across the different organizations. Raz says, I want trophies, ears, tongues, eyeballs. I don't care. Let it be a crafting item to make a vanity item where you can wear it over your armor and stuff. Imagine an ear necklace or a fine leather string. That's so gross, but that would be pretty cool. Honestly, that would be pretty sweet. Yeah, Templar says Diablo style, collect those ears. Yeah, I remember in Diablo 2, you'd get ears for killing people, and it would have their name associated with it. It was kind of cool. Yeah, trophies would be pretty sweet. Those would be easy PvP rewards, Raz says. So in terms of this PvP system expansion, it sounds like my assumptions were correct. You're going to have, they have on the roadmap Knights and Soldier role. We didn't really know too much about those, but it sounds like that is going to be what they're talking about here. So during early access, we're going to get an expansion to the PvP system that will be independent of the clan, but it can carry over to the clan. So the clan can probably have knights that they're picking, which will then be their PvPers, or we can all be part of the PvP. So it sounds like they're going to be expanding that during early access. This is where it gets really interesting. How would those work? Will there be sieges and things like that? We do want to pull off sieges eventually, so probably not for a very long time, because they have talked about how your buildings in the heartlands are going to be secure and you're not going to be able to lose all of your progress there. But in the short term, the PvP will be scrimmage based. We'll tell everyone once we know more and have a better idea about when these features are going to ship to the player. So they're staying kind of tight-lipped on that. But we have a couple more points here, and this is where I'm going to bring you guys in for your opinions on this, because this is where it's going to get really interesting in these last couple slides that I have here. Will there be some bigger PvP-enabled areas than Lioness at some point? So is it going to be coming to the greater PAX Day world, to these regions that we are in, to these provinces? They say that the entire world will eventually be PvP enabled. Having said that, the players who do not want to PvP will not be forced to do so, and the plots that they are building on are protected by the divine peace. So no destruction will come to the villages players are building currently. Now, this is interesting to me. I see this as, and these next couple slides are very important as well, but just to touch on this and kind of summarize this, what they're saying here is Lioness is a test zone, and we've known that for a while. But the greater area of PAX Day, all these regions and provinces will be PvP enabled, but you will have to opt in through the feudal system, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. So you'll have to opt into this, and there will have to be some level of risk reward associated with it. But that does mean that the Heartlands will have PvP in them. They said the entire world. They didn't say the entire world minus Heartlands. This means Heartlands will have PvP in them, but you will be able to opt in, because again, they're all about opting into PvP. That being said, your villages and builds will not be destroyed in the Heartland, I'm assuming. They have talked about these baronies where you'll be able to put them out in the wildlands. I'm assuming that's where the siege system will come into play, because they've said that your villages in the Heartlands are too valuable, and so the divine peace protects them. And then so how do you guys feel about that? I really want to know how you guys feel about the PvP coming, because I know that we have some members who are not going to want to PvP at all, and that's perfectly okay. And I think that's where our clan is really going to shine, because we will have warriors and knights who are going to want to be fighting on the front lines. We're going to have sneaky organizations of people who are going to be doing all kinds of espionage. We are also going to have our villagers who just want to live that village RP lifestyle and just stay in town. So how do you guys feel, Graz, starting with you, how do you feel about PvP coming to the entire world? What does that look like in your eyes?
I would love to know what they mean by it's opt in. Being a person who has played EU quite a bit, it's not opt in. You can be in the high safe zone. You can still have someone gank you. I like to come home, go out, do some harvesting just to relax and get away from the BS of my real life. And I don't want to have to keep watching over my shoulder that someone's going to gank me. So I need to know how that's going to play out.
Right. And if let's just say worst case scenario, it is like not an opt-in system, which they've said that it's going to be, but worst case scenario, that's where your clan comes in, right? I mean, we can band together to make sure that we are protected. We have the numbers, we have the skill. That being said, it's not a foolproof system. You obviously will get ganked at time to time, and that's just the way it goes. But I think a lot less people are going to mess with you if you're in a big church, which we're about to get to next, if you're part of a big feudal system, which we're about to get to next, or a big kingdom. But I definitely understand what you're saying, how you don't want to get ganked by people and things like that. So I think that in the Heartland, from my understanding, it is going to be these knight and soldier roles who will be fulfilling the PvP. I don't know how they're going to balance this, though, because how are they going to stop trolls from trolling you in the overworld if you can't just PvP everybody in the Heartland? If I can't stop someone from jumping in front of my camera and acting a fool while I'm trying to record a video or something, what is there that I can do to combat that, right? So they're going to have to balance that stuff somehow. Maven, what are your thoughts on the entire world becoming the PvP zone? How do you envision that? What problems do you see arising from that?
Well, I think back to earlier where they're talking about dungeons may not be PvP, but then they turn around and say eventually the whole world will be PvP, and they keep this reoccurring theme that it'll be opt-in. I'm wondering if they'll strike some sort of balance where maybe if you're carrying a certain resource, then you are PvP eligible, or maybe you just decide to wear a certain piece of armor or a certain medallion that flips that switch on in the system so that you can interface and go after others who choose to do the same. I'd like to see some sort of balance where people aren't forced into it. If they really just want to unwind, they want to create their little world here on the server and they want to do concentrate on their crafting and not have to worry about someone's going to come marauding through and just strike them down.
Yeah, I definitely think that's an interesting thing that you bring up there about the gear. That had not crossed my mind. I do know that I've read somewhere that they are going to be opting you in based on if you're carrying certain resources. That
Hmm.
has been that has been said. I remember reading that somewhere. But you have brought up gear. That is kind of interesting. Maybe if you have some type of equipment or something that you're wearing or wielding, that
Hmm.
could also grant you some level of power, but also have a drawback to it of flagging you. Like in World of Warcraft, when you choose to opt into war mode, you get more experience, you get more gold drop, you get higher yields of things because you're at risk of getting ganked. Now some people just respect it and they leave you alone and they go about their business, but on an RP server, I don't know if that will be the case. We'll have to see. I would hope that it doesn't turn into just KOS, but that's definitely an interesting thing that you brought. That's why I'm so glad that I'm bringing people onto these now because that's something that I would not have thought of unless you had mentioned it. So thank you for
Yeah.
bringing up that. That's a really good point there.
Yeah. Or maybe even if through the knighthood system, maybe there's certain signet rings that are gifted to folks that when they put that on, all of a sudden they are flagged.
Right. Yeah. That's really an interesting concept. Templar says they could easily do a flag system like New World, just flag up or don't. Templar, the problem I see with that is if they just make it all or nothing like that, why would the trolls flag up? They could just follow you in the dungeons, not flagged, steal all your loot, keep doing the stuff that they're doing, keep jumping in front of your face, and you can't kill them or cut their head off. But you're at risk to get your head cut off if someone else rolls into town. It's going to be an interesting balance because of that. JREX says traders hire guards. Yeah, that's what I've said extensively on the channel is they're going to have to hire some level of, if you are carrying those rare resources or transporting that rare equipment, that you're going to need guards. What if it is equipment, Maven? But it's like, let's say these shoulder pads are very, very strong, but if you wear them, you're flagged for PvP, or if you're even just carrying them, you're flagged for PvP. That could be really interesting system. So if you're doing a shipment of this high-end armor that could be used for flagging you for PvP, boom, the whole shipment is now flagged and you need protection in order to get that from point A to point B. Raz also says, I'm all about pillaging and taking someone's yellow onions. Raz says, traders hiring guards would imply banditry. They have talked about bandits. So we know that there will be bandits in the game and you'll be able to be a bandit. We just don't know to what extent. Again, a lot of this is questionable. We don't know all the information about it. A lot of this is theory craft, but I like the ideas we're putting out. This brings us directly into our next talking point, which is churches in the feudal system. And they were asked, you listed churches and feudal system as upcoming PAX Day features. How do these systems work? What about altars and miracles? Now remember, in these last couple articles here, at the very beginning, if you remember, they talked about a secondary resource. That's going to come into play very soon, so pay attention here. The altars will enable new gameplay through grace, a new resource obtainable from the altars used for miracles, and churches are built around these altars. So what I'm hearing is grace will be a renewable resource that will not act like stamina. I don't think it's just going to regenerate all on its own. You may need to go and obtain this somehow from these sources. I was talking about I thought it'd be really cool. And this before I even knew this, I thought it'd be really cool to have those Stonehenges that are out in the world be like waylays or something where you can channel some form of magical energy to recharge your spells, and those could then become PvP hotspots and things of that nature. But them telling us about this grace system, I see this, the way I envision this is it will be an asset or a resource that is obtained by going to these areas, performing something or spending time there. It'll then charge it back up. And you can only get it from churches that are built around these altars. They also say grace will also allow anointing of knights who are PvP flagged across the entire world, which forms the basis of the feudal system. This is going to be extremely important getting this balanced correctly, like we've talked about before, because we have on the roadmap the knight system, the knight roll is already on there. That's probably going to be what is leading up to the church system and the feudal system. So once we get that, which is already on the roadmap, I think the churches are going to have to inherently come into play. And we have a little bit more information about these churches as well. But I'm interested to see if these knights are ever going to get a break. It's like once you're anointed, you're just flagged for PvP all the time. So if they're in the middle of our town and another knight rolls in through our town, is there anything I can do to help our knights or our civilians? Can we call to arms to help our knights fight off these people who are invading? Or is it only knights versus knights? They're going to have to think of something there. But it's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds. But it says that the knights are flagged across the entire world, which will form the basis of the feudal system. And then they, as always, they say, we'll tell you more about this as we get closer to shipping these features. But it's cool to hear what they're thinking about. So what do you guys think about this? How do you think this miracle grace system is going to work with these churches and altars? Graz, what's your opinion on that? Do you have any opinions or ideas on how this could function?
Maybe you have to do like a penance or something to build your grace, recharge it.
That would be interesting. Maven, do you have thoughts on the grace system and the miracle system with churches?
Yeah, I could see it being such as if you visit shrines or altars, you can get the divine blessing from each one. And I could see it being a thing where you could do a pilgrimage to go around and visit the various locations of the altars. And as you touch each one, maybe it gains more power behind you, so you're able to do bigger things when you need to draw on that power.
That's a really interesting idea. That kind of almost goes into, so there's a system for Minecraft. It's called the faction system. And I've talked about this before on the channel, but it's probably lost in one of my 10-hour streams. So I'll mention it here. This faction system for Minecraft was a really cool plugin. It allowed you to create a faction. Your faction could have X amount of people. I think you could have as many people as you wanted, or unless you set it in the configuration files. But each player had a certain amount of power associated with them, a baseline. As you would level up and do these other things within the system or within the game, with MCMMO, you could earn more of these resources and stuff. But you could increase your personal faction resource. I forgot exactly. I think they called it power. You could increase your personal power. And then when you join a faction, that faction would increase its power based on your personal power. So you have a personal power system that then carried over to the faction, increasing the faction's range and reach. They could do something similar here, kind of like how you were saying you could go and visit these other altars, attune with their powers to an extent, and then you would be increasing your church's influence by bringing it back and increasing their grace production or something along those lines. I think that'd be really interesting to have these pilgrimages where, let's say, I just want to go from church to church and gather all this information, and then you could bring it back and expand your church's reach because you've went and attuned yourself with these other miracles or things that are happening around the world. J-Rex says there could be an energy reserve that churches are used and they charge up. They charge it up. That'd be pretty interesting, actually, honestly. Yeah, like you'd have to go out and obtain this from the wilds, bring it back, and then you could increase your church. You could help recharge your church. Raz says, I'd like to see the grace make you more proficient in clearing the Zebians, seeing as though I've been soloing them, sometimes struggling for a while now. Any help would be welcomed. I'm really interested to see what this whole miracle, this was new information to me, with these altars and miracles and the church play. And we have our last couple points here go more off of this. Again, I have saved the best stuff for last. So Pax Day also envisions types of wars and struggles that players will have over resources, land, and more. Basically, how it's using the model similar to EVE Online as a clear representation of what they were looking towards for the whole sandbox push and pull tug of war system. There are plans for the feudal system with knights, baronies, and eventually full-fledged kingdoms and empires within Pax Day. This was an interesting topic for me because we don't have a kingdom. El Pepo, thank you for the subscription. I really appreciate that. Hope you're enjoying the stream. Thanks for stopping by. We don't really have a kingdom because a kingdom indicates a king. An empire indicates an emperor. I'm not a king. I'm a grand marshal. I'm a leader of a ragtag group of people who have come together and sworn an oath to be loyal to each other through the thick and thin. So I hope that they don't force us into a kingdom with these hard set ranks and roles. I hope they let people have the freedom to choose their own titles within, kind of like in World of Warcraft. I go back to World of Warcraft because I'm pulling from the information that I have, and I've played a lot of WoW. They let you make your own rank for the leader of the guild. You can name your officer ranks whatever you want. So I hope they don't force us into these kingdoms, because I don't want to have to be forced to have the title of king simply because I'm the leader of my clan. But if they do, we can change our ranks and roles to accommodate. But they say this plays hand in hand with the proposed religion system. This is where it gets really, really interesting, which will effectively allow players to use miracles, the magic within Pax Day. So they're saying that the church and religion system is what's going to be allowing players to use miracles and magic. I don't know what they mean by that, because right now we can do magic just using stamina. We just have to find the pieces of equipment. And do they mean that you're going to have to go to a church to get these things anointed in some way, shape, or form? I have no idea what this looks like, but it's interesting nonetheless. Religion, like in medieval life, will play an important role in a village and the factions that control each region. Churches can be built with altars, allowing for fast travel between churches of the same religion. This is massive. This was huge news to me, because we were talking about how they could implement fast travel. I had an interesting idea where mages would have to hold a portal open. This fits a lot better, in my opinion, even. So I'm really happy to see this. If we have a church that has an altar and we extend the reach of our church to have, maybe it's in a different zone, or maybe it's on the other end of our zone, we can put a little outpost or another church over there, and they can link somehow these altars, allowing for fast travel. I think that fits in perfect with the game. They also go on to say that priests, this is extremely information dense right here. Priests can anoint knights and also do area-based blessings to help boost crop yields or spawn rates within specific regions. Huge information drop right here. This is all brand new to me. I did not know about this at all until this was brought to my attention. Again, these articles were pretty old, not very old, but these are older articles as well. They kind of slid under the radar. But just to recap that, churches will be able to be the form of fast travel that we're going to have in the world. We're also going to be getting horses. We already know about that, but that's like a given. We'll have horses to get around, to ride around. I'm hoping that our horses can be fast traveled with us, so we can go from church to church with our mount and loot, and not just be able to do that on foot. That was one thing that I think V Rising did really well. They let you summon your horse, and you can go through portals with your horse as well. It worked really well. But priests, again, I hope they don't force us into the titles, but priests can anoint knights, and they can also do area of effect blessings. So it's going to be a very interesting concept. They have baronies with these knights. They have churches anointing knights. They have clans. They have kingdoms. They have a lot of systems going on. And it's going to be interesting to see how they pull all of these together. So before we move on to the final notes here, I want to get our guests' ideas and thoughts on this religion system. So starting with Groz, going off of the religion system and what I've just read there, how do you feel the magic is going to change going forward, because they say that miracles are going to be through the religion system soon, and the miracles are the magic within PAX Day. So how do you think this is going to shape over time?
I think that's where your grace is going to come in.
You think the grace is going to be the new resource that is going to need to be obtained through the churches in order to then do magic? So you're going to be very limited on the magic that you can perform, even if you have the item. You're going to run out of grace, and you're going to have to go back to a church.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good. I think that would work really well. Maven, what are your thoughts on how you think magic is going to evolve in the coming months?
I think what we've seen so far are more so just enchantments. I don't think we've seen true magic yet. I think we're going to see
Oh,
it on a way bigger platform, and it's going to affect whole groups going forward, not just single folks. Like, for instance, if you've got a healing garment on, usually you can just do a very small area of effect around you. Versus,
right.
I think these miracles they speak to are going to be more impactful. You're not going to see as many of them as you are, say, the enchantments on this equipment.
Okay, that's very interesting. I didn't even think of that. That's a very interesting take on it. So you think that there's going to be actual full-fledged miracles and not just these little baby miracle magics that we've been messing around with so far? That would be really cool. And again,
Correct.
guys, a lot of this is theory craft. We're just giving our ideas on the information we're taking in. We don't know one way or the other, but these are some educated guesses here. I mean, this is some pretty good information we're putting out. Let's see what we've missed here in chat. Raz says, better start crafting holy water to keep that grace charged up to cast them healing spells. That would be really interesting, actually. JREX says, a new energy bar that the religion charges, and you have to recharge. You have to go to them to recharge it. You have to go to the church to recharge. Okay, yeah, that's kind of it's kind of what Graz and I were touching on about having to go back to the church to recharge that grace meter. So the final bit here, they go on to say that this can also mean we get competing religions, just like in real life, where players can effectively make their form of religion more appealing than the others, and therefore attract more followers and players to their side. This system could also spark wars against other religions. As your religion grows large enough, you can even appoint a pope. So again, I hope they don't lock us into these titles, because I would like to have the option to name the titles of these positions myself. If, we're going to be having religion within our clan, our church, I'd like to be able to. What if I don't want to name it a pope? I want to name him what if I want to have like the Holy Paladin be the leader of our church or something, because it's more combat driven. I hope that they don't lock us into these titles. But that being said, they're going to have to lock us into some degree. Otherwise, people are going to get real weird. And especially on an RP server, you need to have some level of, I don't know, if they just let people put whatever they want, can they just put like, oh yeah, this guy's the ass hat in charge, and now we got to go and call their priest an ass hat? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, hopefully it has some level of fluidity to it, but they're going to have to, yeah, there you go, combat monks. Jarex says combat monks. Jarex also says you'll have to take the priest with you to the dungeons and combat. Raz says, I 100% agree with Moon on that. Our current spells are weak, in my opinion. An AoE full heal would be nice, just like the Zebian poison bullshit. Yeah, I agree 100%. I think that'd be really cool. I hope that she's onto something there, and that we do get these really big miracles. Again, it's going to come down to balancing. They're going to have to find a way to limit how often you can use these and really dial them in. J-Rex says, warrior monk, battle Buddha. Some great ideas being thrown around there.
Now, Void,
Yes.
if I may, I'm wondering if they make a reference to more followers for your religion that you're building. I wonder if they will somehow tie that into the amount of grace and power that your religion can have when someone goes to, say, visit an altar. If
Yeah,
it's going to have
I would
more,
definitely think it would.
yeah.
That would make a lot of sense, because And I'd like to see a religion system where people don't have to assimilate to your clan in order to take part in your religion. I'd like to see, because they have these multifaceted things going on now where you have a clan, you have a church, you have these baronies with these knights, you have these multifaceted approach to these groups or guilds or clans or gatherings, whatever you want to call them, these groups of people. I think it'd be kind of cool if you could have like a congregation of people who are basically they've chosen your religion as their religion, and they now can be in their own clan and partake in your religion still. So they could use your fast travel points. They could partake in your miracles and things of that nature, or the recharge of your grace. I think that'd be kind of cool to not tie people too hardly to like too firmly to your church, and allow random people to come through and be like, you know what, I really like the way that you guys have this set up here. And although I'm not in your clan, I'd like to partake in your religion. Or maybe they want to take part in your clan, but not your religion. I think there should be like a lot of crossover and stuff there. It would make for very interesting dynamics. Taz says, Pope Voidlock, lol. Immunity blessings, Graz is saying in chat. Graz, tell us more about that. What immunities, what other blessings would you like to see?
I'd like to see if when we're running Dungeon One, a large blessing that would give you like 90% immunity to poison or to fire, whichever we're having to face, for the entire raid party.
I think that'd be pretty damn cool, honestly. Being able to get that would have to be substantial on the amount of grace it would require or something. Maybe you need to pool, maybe you can pool multiple, I don't know, what are they, priests together, in order they can pool their grace together and do a big blessing. I'd love to see a cooperation aspect to it. There's a mod for Minecraft. I go back to things that I know of. So there's a mod for Minecraft called like there's Bewitchment and there's Witchery. They're magic mods that are very rustic. I love those mods. They're absolutely unbelievable. But there are certain things that you can do with other witches and warlocks and magic doers in the world that actually makes it stronger. And if you have familiars helping with it as well, they can help with your attunement and increase the strength of it. So I think it'd be kind of cool if they carried some type of system over like that, where if you have multiple priests doing a blessing, you can then multiply the outcome of that. Temple are saying barbarian war cries like in Diablo 2. Yeah, like a big area of effect war cry. Something similar to that, but I'd like to see it where it can be a community thing. Because again, it's a very community driven game. So if they can bring more of the hey, let's work together aspects to this, it's going to be a lot more let's come together, and as opposed to let's just purely fight each other. I think they should give people reasons to come together as opposed to just reasons for people to fight. JRX says it takes a lot of grace to fight a dragon. Yeah, I would hope so. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Any final thoughts from you guys on this whole religion system here? Anything that we haven't talked about yet? Any ideas that you guys may have of things that we skipped over?
I think it would be cool if using the religion and the grace point system, if you can uncover special areas that maybe the layperson couldn't. So you'd have to literally guide your clan to special areas that they couldn't otherwise access.
Almost like maybe like a fog of war you're thinking of?
Yeah,
Okay,
or
that would be
maybe
really
they're in tune
interesting.
with the divine, so they get shown a special path that just normal people can't see otherwise.
I
So it
want to
gives you
see
access to
secrets.
special dungeons, maybe.
Yeah, I want to see secrets abound in this game. I want to see, and we've already found secrets. So if people don't know, we found this many backdoor entrances that are not marked at all on the map, but they lead into backdoor entrances into dungeons. I really want to see all kinds of secrets scattered everywhere. And that's one of my favorite things to even think about in this game is the sheer level of secrets that can be piled into this game that you may never find for months. I mean, I know there's data mining and all that stuff. If they can somehow hide that and keep it under wraps, I love secrets. I love secrets so much. I want to have secret I want to have secrets inside of my buildings. I want to have little torches I can pull on the wall that slide open little hidden rooms and tunnels and all kinds of stuff like that. Secrets and rustic magic just jive with me so well. Rest says, I just had a thought with religion and an economy system. What's to stop someone from making a tithe to boost the religion? Dan is going to lose his shit because this is too close to taxes. LOL. Yeah. Yeah, that could be interesting. I'm not sure how they would balance that. I'm trying to think of how they're going to prevent it from just becoming a Zerg. Because we don't Zerg in our clan. I mean, we throw our weight around. We have quite a few people, and if we need to, we'll have a show of force. But we're kind of the good guys, right? We're building bridges. We're helping new players. My whole thing in the game is, and for everybody watching and everybody who wants to partake in, maybe you don't want to be in the early access, but you want to be there when the game goes live after all the systems are in place. My whole thing is, I run a band of brothers and sisters through a brotherhood known as the Order of the Blood Brothers, where maybe you're down on your luck. Maybe you're up on your luck and you're a noble, but you don't want to be living that life anymore. And you just want to come and take our oath and know that someone always has your back and that you will never be alone in this world. That's what my order is all about. It's about coming together, united by a common cause of making sure that the free people of Tremin and the greater area of Caries remain free to travel, free to trade, whatever it may be. That's what we're all about. People were building walls around resources. I was very adamantly against that. Nothing I could really do about it, but I want to be able to have a city filled with awesome people who have shops set up. I want to have different groups of mercenary bands that emerge naturally through merchant gameplay, where let's say Raz and his ragtag group of friends that he works really close with, or other knights in our clan, will set out into dungeons. Maybe they bring a priest with them and to guide them through these creepy places, and they get to go and they come back with these riches. They can then put them up for sale. Our clan grows and prospers. Our church gets more followers. We have new people joining the region, flocking to us because of our, the level of things that we're acquiring and how well we're prospering. And I just see a whole village and city building up around that type of gameplay. You can have people who are just homebodies and they're crafting and toiling away. They're putting stuff up for sale. I would really like to see the crafting system get a fluctuating slider to them where you can have something roll very good, something roll not so good. I'd like to see stats associated with them, so it's not just all this is the piece, they're all exactly the same. But that's what I see for the game going forward, honestly. After full release, I'm really looking forward to just building a community around the game, having tons of people all engaging at whatever level they like to engage with. But our brotherhood, everybody comes to us willingly. I don't run a kingdom where I'm forcing people to pay taxes. We are all here willingly, and we have taken an oath to stand by one another. And that's what we're all about. That's what our community, Cheeky Buggers United, is all about. That's what our clan's all about. So if that sounds good to you guys listening at home, head over to our Discord. You can type !Discord in chat, and it will pull up a link. You can type !website, and that will pull up our website. If you would like to join us in game because you like the idea of the Order of the Blood Brothers and the way that I've have it all set up. I'm not a king. No one is made to serve. You are here willingly. We do have ranks and we have leadership. Obviously, we have structure, but everybody has come to us willingly, and that's how it will remain. So if they force us into kingdoms or empires, we will have to fill those roles, obviously, and I'll become a king, even though I don't see myself as a king. I see myself as a man of the people. I'm always there for every single one of you. We just threw out a bunch of promotions on our other stream having to do with gameplay. So congratulations to everyone who got a promotion. Everyone else, we'll be doing another wave of promotions coming up pretty soon. But the more you put into our community, the more you get out of our community. But if you would like to join the Order of the Blood Brothers, you can head over to our website and you can submit an application to join the Order of the Blood Brothers. And if you just want to take part in our community, the Cheeky Buggers United, we're going to be playing all kinds of games. If there's huge periods of no content for PAX Day, we got all other stuff that our entire community can hang out and play and have fun with each other. It's not just about PAX Day, it's about building the greater community. And PAX Day is the tool that we're using right now in order to have a lot of fun together. So if that sounds good to you guys, please head over to our Discord, head over to our website. And if you're not wanting to take part in the early access phase, you can still join our community. It's not like you have to be actively playing PAX Day. We have a bunch of gamers on there who just are great people. And we have a bunch of different channels and rooms that are dedicated to many, many, many different games. So if you would like to have fun with great people, please head over to our Discord and join the Cheeky Buggers United. Let's see any other chat I missed here. Shameless plug incoming. Absolutely. I mean, we have to promote the community, because I want people to know that there's always going to be a place in gaming that is free of toxicity, where people can come together and be mature. Almost everyone in our community is over 30. I think it's just the crowd that has been drawn from PAX Day. It's a very mature crowd. So I'm very happy to see that everyone's been getting along very well. We're able to talk about controversial things and no one gets butthurt. We've just been having a great time, all respecting each other and playing games together. So if that sounds good, please come and join us. JREX says, press void. Am I on a re-election campaign? No. President void. No, I don't need to be reelected. I don't, everybody here is just having a good time. And do you guys have any final thoughts, Graz or Maven, about any of the things we touched on? Anything you'd like to say about the community? Because I know you guys have always been in the background until now, and your voices have not been heard by the greater audience. So if you have anything to say about the community, about how we play games, anything you'd like to let anybody know about the game in general, the floor is yours. Have at it.
Guess I'll go first. Normally I'm a solo player. I usually am a hermit. I don't engage with anybody. But this community and what Void's put together has brought me out of my hiding. And I've been having an absolute blast with these people in this community. They're really good people. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Graz, for that. I'm glad that you're having such a good time. That's what we're all about, everybody. Bringing people together. Maybe you come out of your comfort zone because you're a solo player normally like Graz and you just want to take the plunge. I think you'll find us very, very welcoming. We have people who will absolutely bend over backwards to make sure that you're having a good time and help you in any way that they can. Maven, do you have anything you'd like to say to the listeners about our community, about our clan, or about anything PAX Day related? The floor is yours if you'd like to.
Absolutely. Thank you. I think since even alpha access, when I was interfacing with you on a YouTube video, it became clear that this game has a lot of potential. And I think part of that allure is the community that we have, right? And since I became part of the clan, it's been access to relationships that I'm building with others around the world. And like you say, we'll bend over backwards to help each other. And it's cool because I have the typical 9-to-5 job. Well, I don't feel completely disconnected. It's really neat that you do the live stream so I can participate that way and I can write comments and there's people I know in the comments with me and you're interacting too. So it feels like you're a lot more able to be connected even though you can't be in the game as much as you'd like to be, especially being an adult. So I've really appreciated that. And the fact that if someone's got a big goal in mind, we all chip in and try and be a part of it too, in our own special ways.
Yeah, absolutely. The level of camaraderie that we've had in PAX Day. I mean, obviously, most of the people here have joined specifically because of PAX Day. PAX Day, people always ask me, is PAX Day worth it? Is PAX Day worth it? For me, I've made my money back 100-fold, if not more, with the level and quality of people that I have met just in these short 26 days. 26 days, I think it is. 26 days only. So the people on PAX Day, the vast majority of people that we've interacted with, even who aren't even a part of our community directly, have just been great people. We've met some awesome clans out there, and we've been having a blast. So I'm really glad that you guys are having a good time. Aragon in chat says, I joined and found my parents, changed nationality, and became a politician. Jarek says, I love that. Aragon, great to see you, buddy. Sorry you missed you last night, but and now I missed you again tonight in game, but I'm glad that you were able to make it here on the PaxCast. That is going to wrap up episode, I think this is episode 9 of PaxCast. Thank you all for listening, and hopefully we get some more information soon about some upcoming patches, because once I hear it, I'm going to make sure that you guys can hear it. I'm trying to keep these as fast as possible. All of this information was just brought to my attention tonight. Found the articles, researched it up. Normally, if it's on Mainframe's main site, I can pull up their article and actually go over it with you guys and have visuals. But these were on third-party sites from interviews that were taking place. So I didn't have a visual for you guys, unfortunately. But I will be keeping PaxCast up to date as much as possible. Once we have information, I will relay it over to you guys, or if anything else warrants it. If it's small hot fixes, I do those at the beginning of my gameplay streams. So make sure you guys pay attention to the very beginnings. Normally the beginning and the end is the most important part of my streams, because that's when I go over any of the patch notes. If that's the stuff you guys are really interested in, any of the new stuff that's been happening, I do a recap at the beginning. In the middle, if we're doing something really exciting like a dungeon, that's where you'll find that. And at the end, it is just wrapping up and unwinding at the end of the long day. But thank you guys so much for watching. Huge thanks to all of my channel members, and thank you to my co-hosts here, my guest stars who decided that they wanted to take the plunge and join me on stage here today. So I really appreciate you guys maybe even coming out of your comfort zones to being on a live podcast. I know it can be a little stressful at first, especially because, guys, these aren't scripted. They don't have scripts in front of them. I don't have a script in front of me. We wing it. That's just how we do it. That you get the most natural information that way. I have notes. I'll look over the notes, but our thoughts, they're coming right off the top of our heads, and it can be kind of stressful at times. So thank you guys very much for participating. I'm sure everybody will love seeing more of you guys in the future episodes of PaxCast. That's going to do
Yeah,
it for
thanks for
us.
having us.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
No problem. That's going to do it for us for tonight. And then that's going to bring a close to this episode of PaxCast. Hopefully, we'll get to see you guys soon. Tomorrow, watch for another gameplay stream of PAX Day. See you guys then. Bye for now.